This is a video that I always knew I was going to make since I made my channel. For years I've been a fan of Fnaf. I've been a fan of the game since the first one came out. Hell, I can probably quote that entire Markiplier video by heart. Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game you all recommended to me en masse, and I saw that Yami Mash played in. He said it was really good. So I'm very eager to see what is up, and that is a terrifying animatronic bear. And ever since then, these games have played some part in my life. I've played them all, I've beaten most, I've heard theories, I've written theories, I've heard the songs. Hell, the genesis of my online presence was a shitty doodle of Freddy Fazbear in my notebook that I posted on Amino. And of course I have been waiting ever so patiently for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie when it was announced in 2015. And since then, for years, it has been an absolute production hell. It had been passed between a few companies before it finally landed at Blumhouse, which made some people cheer and others sit in absolute anxious fear. They have a reputation of making extremely hit or miss movies, but they honestly have a genius business model. What they do is they give out a very small amount of money to every horror film that comes their way, and if it's lucky, it'll become a hit. And it's almost impossible for these films to not at least make some money back because of how low their budgets are. But for every Get Out, there's a Truth or Dare. And this made many people worry that the film that came out would just be a lazy cash grab. And the Rotten Tomatoes reviews were not helping. 26%. Jesus. That's harsh. But is it deserved? Well, we're gonna see. Because it's finally time for me to review Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. Now, when I decided I wanted to review this film, I wanted to try to be objective. I didn't want to let the fact that I'm a Fnaf fan bias me. But I realized I think my perspective as a fan could also lead to something interesting. So, I'm gonna try and do both. I'm gonna try and take an objective look at this film while also taking the perspective of the fan that is within me. By the way, Blumhouse is probably gonna murder me if I use too much footage from the film, so if I ever need to cut anything, I'm just gonna use pictures like this. So the film starts in a pretty interesting way. It starts with a cold open, and we see a guard who's running away from something, presumably one of the animatronics. But then he gets caught and strapped into whatever this thing is. Jesus Christ, dude, what is this for? What, was this place designed by Jigsaw? Anyway, after this guy gets murdered, we get to meet Mike, played by Josh Hutcherson. And I have to say, Josh Hutcherson is doing a pretty good job. Actually, that's something I'm gonna extend to all the actors in the movie. Everyone's doing a really good job. Even the kids in the movie were doing surprisingly well. But you can tell that Josh Hutcherson was really giving this role his all. Soon Mike meets with this guy named Steve. Sure, that's his name. Which he turns down because he can't work nights. Because he spends those nights taking care of his little sister, Abby, who he has custody over after his parents. I don't know, to be perfectly honest. Their Aunt Jane also really wants custody over Abby so she can get checks from the state, and out of desperation, Mike takes the job. Also, I should bring up, he's using nature noises and a poster of Nebraska to have a dream about his brother getting kidnapped every night so he can figure out who did it. Wait, what? And since he's shown up twice now, I should bring up that my biggest problem with the movie is William F. Now, Matthew Lillard isn't doing a bad job. A great job, even. You can tell he's really having fun with this role. My problem is that William Afton is so underutilized. The way the trailers were edited, it made it seem like he was going to be one of the main threats besides the animatronics. But no. He shows up at the beginning and then right at the end, and dies almost immediately. It would be a lot cooler if they made it a bit of a mystery with some suspects as to who was in the suit. Like, obviously most horror fans are probably gonna figure out it's Matthew Lillard, because, like, he played Ghostface, and they're not gonna get him to just play some random guy. I'm feeling woozy here! But it could still definitely make the movie interesting, even if it might also make it feel a little bloated. Anyway, back to the movie. Michael goes to his first night at Freddy's and does his weird dream hypnosis thing. But this time in the dream, 5 kids show up and just, like, stare at him for a moment before they run away. Before he can chase after them, he wakes up at 6 a.m. And after that, there's a scene at a diner where we discover that Aunt Jane has been hiring the babysitter that Mike is hiring to essentially spy on him.
Thought it was breakfast.
Some people say that, but, you know, it's just a theory.
I know what that is!
It was at this very moment that my brother turned to me and said that he hates this movie. But anyway, other than Matt Pat's cameo, all you need to know about this scene is that Aunt Jane hires these people to essentially rough up Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so Mike will get fired. This night, we meet Vanessa, a mysterious police officer who knows a little too much about this place, and, plot twist, is William Afton's daughter. Also this night, the kid possessing Foxy slashes Mike in a dream, and he has the wound in real life. So I guess the animatronics are like Freddy Krueger in this world. And after this night, the kid's Aunt Jane hired to break into get murdered. One of them gets eaten by a cupcake. Another one of them gets murdered by Bonnie in a closet. This guy gets killed by Foxy. And after this girl does the dumbest thing anyone could do in that moment, she gets bit the fuck in half by Freddy.
Fatality.
But they did succeed in messing up Freddy's, which means that Vanessa pays Mike a visit for his potential criminal negligence. But he just manages to escape anything happening to him by giving his sad backstory and explaining his weird dream hypnosis thing. And now, he has to take Abby to Freddy's because, well, there's not really anyone to watch her anymore. And the animatronics come to life and are nice to her. Now, originally, I thought they were making the animatronics the good guys and nice, and I wasn't really here for that, but they didn't. This is actually a little bit of a trick. After another night where Vanessa admits that she knew the animatronics were alive the whole time, and Abby gets electrocuted by Bonnie, Vanessa threatens to kill Mike if he ever brings her there again. And after all this discouragement, it seems he's finally giving up custody to Aunt Jane. Anyway, Mike leaves Abby with Aunt Jane, and he goes to work and does his weird dream hypnosis thing again, where the kids make an offer to him that every night he can dream of a perfect world where his brother was never kidnapped. He says yes, and then immediately goes back on it, so the kids attack him and then put him in that weird buzzsaw Freddy head thing. And while I already said that this thing's very silly, I do like the detail that the guard from the beginning loosening the restraints is how he escapes. We also get to see how the guard from the beginning ended up, and I may not be able to show you this because YouTube doesn't like anything that is not Christian. After Mike escapes, Golden Freddy shows up, murders Aunt Jane, and takes Abby in a cab. Hey look, it's Gory Kenshin. I'm not using the clip again. After this, we get some exposition from Vanessa that not only is Willy Boy her dad, but he's also the one that killed Garrett and then gave her Garrett's favorite toy. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty fucked up. And after Mike tases all the animatronics and saves Abby, William makes his big screen debut. And again, you can tell that Matthew Lillard was having a lot of fun in this role. And after stabbing Vanessa, Abby uses a drawing to tell the animatronics that William killed him, so they set off the spring locks and he dies. which creates the second coolest kill in the movie. Overall, this movie is pretty enjoyable, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any problems. Again, William Afton is far too underutilized. He's supposed to be the main antagonist of the film, but he's only in it for like, what, a total of 3 minutes? Pro tip to every writer out there, a villain is a lot scarier when they've been on screen for more than 30 seconds. And also another thing, it seems like they may have just cut Henry out of the world entirely. If you're not a super fan of these games, you probably won't know, but Henry is the other founder of Freddy Fazbear's. You probably know him from that one Family Guy shitpost.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth. If you still even remember that name.
But the tape Mike finds says that only one guy founded it, and that's William Afton. So it kinda seems like they may not be acknowledging Henry at all, which would really suck. Maybe they'll include Henry in the sequel that's gonna be released in the next 20 years. Another problem I have is with the horror in general. I know it's a tired argument, but the red eyes really aren't scary, and I wish they kept those black sockets with white pupils. It really made them come off as a lot more creepy and also gave them this supernatural air about them. I just can't explain it. Another problem I have is that this film isn't very scary, and that's a big problem when you're a horror film based on a horror game. Obviously, I could be a bit biased because I've been looking at these characters for, like, most of my life. But I've seen a lot of other people complaining about the horror, who are fans and not fans. And I know you might say, but Emerald, these games are meant for kids. Did you expect it to be scary? Yes, I did. A lot of the games still scare me. Somewhat. The first game really isn't that scary to me anymore, but the second game is still pretty scary. They never really get any of that harsh lighting and atmosphere that Fnaf is known for. The animatronics are always very well lit, so that makes them a lot harder to really be that scary, since they're animatronics that are made to be kid-friendly. The atmosphere and the lighting are doing most of the heavy lifting with the scariness of them. Another problem I have is just the cupcake. Why is the cupcake alive, and why does it kill people? The cupcake has only ever actually had a jump scare in one of the games, and that is the game where there are no possessed animatronics and just hallucinations. I don't get why the cupcake is not only alive, but also like the most aggressive one. One thing this film does do pretty well is it has some pretty great shots in it. I really liked both these shots with Golden Freddy the most. This one part with Foxy was probably the spookiest part of the movie. And speaking of Foxy, the animatronics in this movie are very impressive. They are also perfectly accurate to Scott's models. Maybe Bonnie's a little too blue for my liking, but other than that, they all look amazing. My only problem is that Golden Freddy is this weird hybrid between FNAF 1 Golden Freddy and FNAF 2 Golden Freddy, and while he looks cool, the blue eye honestly reminds me of like Blade Runner. He's not very scary compared to the just pitch black eyes that Golden Freddy has in the first game. Another thing I have to praise is the set design, especially the pizzeria. It looks great. This really feels like it could have been a real pizzeria that people went to. So the fact that now it's this weird, spooky, abandoned place just gives it that little extra spookiness. A place that was supposed to be filled with kids is now completely empty. It just has it. You know, it. It's got such a great style while also being a believable pizzeria. I mean, I'd go here. I'd rather go here than Chuck E. Cheese. So does it deserve a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes? No. This movie's like a good 50% at least. I'd personally rate it around a 6 or a 7. My brother even gave it the glowing review of pretty good. And he's not a fan of the games. He's only ever played like the first one once. In conclusion, I liked the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It's not high cinema, it's not gonna blow your mind with its fantastic storytelling, but it's a pretty decent horror film. My fanboy side gives it a 9 out of 10, but my critic side gives it a 7 out of 10. I think I'm going to end it here. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. If you didn't, I don't know. If you want to see more, subscribe and turn on notifications. I have way more videos coming very soon. Want to tell me your thoughts about the movie or my video, or maybe even both? Go ahead and leave a comment. And if you want your friends to see this video, go ahead and share it with them. I've been Emerald. I'll see you on the flip side. And bye.
Sometimes the things you see in the shadows aren't just shadows.